Tips for fixing problems in your code. Number 8 is online forums or online sources of help. There are actually lots of people out there who have a lot of expertise in programming and are happy to help. Of course, we have a lot of people in the unit that are happy to help, so if you use the discussion board or post on Slack as well, I think there's a lot of really great students, very enthusiastic students that are happy to help you if you're having problems. And of course, your teaching team, your tutors and me, we're all extremely happy to answer any problems that you have. Last year, I know that students got a lot of value out of the discussion forum, so check that if you need to. But looking beyond that, there's a lot of good Q&A forums for P5.js and JavaScript. There's a discourse, if you're used to using discourse, specifically for processing and P5.js. Stackoverflow has a tag for P5.js, and there's quite a lot of questions in there, or more JavaScript more generally. It's a very popular programming Q&A forum. So that's a summary of what we've talked about today. We've talked about tidying your code, following the style guide, analyzing the error, explaining to someone else, printing to the console, on-canvas debugging, and web developer console, and online forums. So it was 8 tips that I think can take your code solving abilities a long way. Now, as a bonus, I just wanted to give you a few little bits of information about standalone editor options if you're interested in them. Feel free to skip this part if it's not something you need. So far we've been using the online editor, and it's good because we can easily share code and things, but often it's also really great to have an editor that runs on your local machine. I'm going to show you 2 options. Probably the easiest to use or to transition to from the online editor is the processing editor. So if you go to processing.org and go to the download section of the page and choose your platform, so I would choose the Mac. And you don't need to pay any money, it downloads automatically. This is just a donation, it's an open source project. And when you open that up, you'll get a new editor. I actually already have it downloaded. Let me cancel this. And I'll open up processing. Processing. So processing is kind of like the older sibling of P5.js. P5.js is based on the processing project. And the processing editor is super easy to use. It's got the sort of same idea of the play and the stop button. It's got a console down the bottom. It's got a really easy to use editor. And what you can do is add tools, and some of the tools you can add are different modes. So there's lots of different modes you can write in Python, or you can develop for Android. There's one called P5.js mode, and apparently I should update mine. If you install this mode, then you can develop P5.js sketches on your local computer in the processing editor. There's some sort of slight differences. It uses a libraries folder and some other minor things, but it takes care of most of it for you. And the advantage is that it's on your local machine. Feel free to try that out if you want to have something running locally. If you're looking for something a little bit more full-featured, there's a Visual Studio Code editor. This is the text editor that I use for most of my programming. You can download it from code.visualstudio.com, and it has lots and lots of extensions, a very active extension marketplace. So any language that you can imagine to program in, you can basically do it in this editor. But it has some good snippets for P5.js that makes it easier to work with P5.js sketches, and it basically works out of the box. If you download your code from the web editor, you can use it locally, and I'll show you how to do that. So if you go to any of your sketches in the P5.js web editor, if you go File, then you can download the sketch, and it will download it as a zip file, and all of your sketch required files for your sketch will be in there. and you can just open that straight up in Visual Studio Code and it'll work straight away. So, to conclude, that's 8 strategies for solving problems in code. And I've said before that the greatest virtue of a programmer is laziness. Well, I think that's true. You know, we don't want to write out lots of things if we can use a for loop instead. We're basically lazy creatures. I think the second greatest virtue is persistence. When we run into problems, we don't give up. Like, you really need to just keep going and chipping away at a problem. It can be extremely frustrating, but there's a good sense of reward when you solve those problems and get your sketch working at the end. So that was fixing problems. Hopefully it won't be a train wreck next week. And as always, happy creative coding.